The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. While the crowd was pressing in on Jesus and listening to the word of God, he was standing by the lake of Gennesaret. He saw two boats there alongside the lake. The fishermen had disembarked and were washing their nets. Getting into one of the boats, the one belonging to Simon, he asked them to put out a short distance from the shore. Then he sat down and taught the crowds from the boat. After he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, "Put out into deep water and lower your nets for a catch." Simon said in reply, "Master, we have worked hard all night and have caught nothing. But at your command, I will lower the nets." When they had done this, they caught a great number of fish, and their nets were tearing. They signaled to their partners in the other boat to come to help them. They came and filled both boats so that the boats were in danger of sinking. When Simon Peter saw this, he fell at the knees of Jesus and said, "Depart from me, Lord, for I am a sinful man." For astonishment at the catch of fish they had made seized him, and all those with him, and likewise James and John, the sons of Zebedee, who were partners of Simon. Jesus said to Simon, "Do not be afraid. From now on you will be catching men." When they brought their boats to the shore, they left everything and followed him. The Gospel of the Lord. In today's scripture, throughout the first reading, second reading, and gospel, there's a leitmotif that runs through it all. We have Isaiah, who speaks of the fact that he is a man with unclean lips. St. Paul, in the fuller version of the second reading, speaks about the fact that he had been a persecutor of the church. And then St. Peter, we just heard, after this miraculous catch, turns to Jesus and says, "Depart from me, Lord, I am a sinful man." So these three men who were chosen by God at different stages of the history of salvation, Isaiah for the chosen people a few centuries before Christ, then Peter and Paul in the early Christian community, recognized the fact that they were imperfect men. They were imperfect leaders in an imperfect church. And I thought to myself, that's really a very timely message, right? It's also a very personal message because we know that each of them, Peter and Paul and Isaiah, they really strove in their lives to be men of God. They strove to do the right thing, but sometimes they failed. Sometimes they made horrible mistakes. Sometimes they committed horrible, horrible sins. And isn't that like the life of each and every one of us? We strive to do our best. We strive to love God. We strive to love our neighbor. But we all have our faults and our failings. We begin every Mass by acknowledging that we are sinners. And so that's the first point in my homily, that we've never had perfect leaders, right, in our church, in our society. The second point in my homily is actually there in your pews. I want you to pick one of these up. It should be nearby you. These are little purple flyers to talk about the annual appeal known as Sharing God's Blessings. And it's something, as I told you last year, my first year with you with this campaign, I only do this once a year, and that's all I do. I'll never speak about it again. But this is an appeal that's above and beyond what we give to our own parish. This is an appeal that helps out so much of the outreach programs of our archdiocese. It does work for campus ministry, our retired priest, our seminary, so many of our needy parishes. And as I told you last year, I wanted to lead by example. And as I told you, I was going to make my own donation. So I made a donation of $1,000, and I kept to that pledge, and I did it. $1,000 to me is a huge amount of money on my small salary. But I did it because I really felt compelled. And I asked all of you to also contribute, because as a parish for years we hadn't met our goal. And I really want to thank all of you because we had a 32% increase in participation. And for the first time in many years, St. Elizabeth of Wyckoff can say, we met our goal. We just got like $200 over our goal, but we did it. So I am so, so grateful all of you who participated. And what I want to ask you to do is please put this in your purse or fold it up, put it in your pocket, and just kind of make the decision this week. If you participated last year, please participate again. If you didn't participate last year, I really invite you to consider to support our imperfect church, but doing a lot of wonderful and great things throughout the diocese. And just also to let you know, this year I am giving $1,000 again. And Father Vincent, Father Carlos don't know it, but they're also going to give $1,000 a piece. So they're going to find out when their paycheck is deducted. No, hopefully they will give whatever they give. They'll give it with all of their heart. But I really do thank you for supporting that. And normally, as you know, because you've been in the parish for many years, normally on this kickoff weekend, we put up a video. It's about a 6 or 7 minute long video talking about the appeal. I figured you guys have seen it so many times. I'm not going to put on the video again this year, and I hope you'll forgive me for that. I hope you'll be okay with it. All right? But I want to spend a few minutes talking about the third point of my homily, which is something I think ties in very well. You know that besides being your pastor here at St. Elizabeth's, I also conduct research at Georgetown University for an institute called CARA. And I also do consulting work for Villanova, so I have a whole academic world that I work in. And I'm very happy to tell you, it just arrived this week, my third book, published by Oxford University Press, was just released. I am very, very excited about it. It is a book that I co-authored with a number of my colleagues down there. And what you're really going to love about the book is the front cover is St. Elizabeth's Parish. We took the picture last year during confirmation. Kathy Carson, our director of communications, was standing here taking hundreds of photographs during the confirmation, and we got this wonderful one of Sarah Onderdonk getting her confirmation. So St. Elizabeth is very involved in it. But I wanted to share it with you. This book was something that was really a labor of love over the last 3 years or so. And what really inspired me as I travel across the country and I meet with priests and I meet with bishops and I try to talk to them, try to find ways that they can collaborate and work better together, there was one particular bishop that I was dealing with, and it was at the end of a long day. I'd interviewed all of his priests. I did my one-on-one interview with him. And at the end, I just turned off the recorder. And I could tell he was tired. And I said to him, I said, you know what? Like man to man, I'm going to turn off the recorder. Forget you're a priest. Forget or you're a bishop, that I'm a priest. And how are you? And he said, to be honest with you, Stephen, he said, this is a horrible job. He said, my desk is the magnet for all negativity in this diocese. And we were sitting at his desk. I was on one side, he was on the other, and he had all these stacks of paper. And he said, you know, look at this one stack. This is a huge stack from parishioners who are really angry at me because I just moved their beloved pastor of so many years, and I moved him to another church. So I'm getting all of this hate mail from these wonderful devout Catholics telling me that I'm the most horrible person in the world for moving their pastor. And then here's another stack of letters from these nuns who think that I'm too conservative. And then there's another stack from another group of nuns who think I'm too liberal, right? And then there's another stack of papers for guys who are leaving the priesthood to get married and have to do all that paperwork. But then he showed me the biggest stack was, very sadly, about the abuse cases that happened in his diocese. And he said, you know the thing about it? He said, all of those cases happened before I was ever ordained as a priest. They all happened before I ever lived in this state, before I ever moved to this diocese. And yet, it's my responsibility, it's my fault, and this is what I have to deal with on a daily basis. And for me, it really kind of humanized the bishop, because it's very easy for us as priests to criticize the bishops. It's very easy to criticize our leaders. But it gave me an insight, and that was really what sparked a lot of this research. So I hope all of you will get the chance to read it. I thought we ran out of copies after 7:30. I found out that we do have 12 copies left. So after Mass, if you 12 first ones out the door, you can get a copy of it. Usually it sells for $25, but I can get it to you for $15. So, and I'll even sign it for you. I hope it'll be something that you'll read and enjoy. And for next week, we'll have a ton more copies because after the 5 and 7:30, I couldn't believe how many books we got rid of. So many people wanted to read it, which I was very grateful for. But I want to share one last thing with you. Friday morning, I'm rushing in and out of the parish center. And as I rushed through, one of our staff was there at the front desk. And as I come through, I hear her say, "Oh, he just walked in the front door." And which I wasn't too happy with, to tell you the truth, because I don't always want to take, sometimes there's calls from salespeople I don't want to take. But I took it, and it was from the Vatican's embassy down in Washington, D.C. And all of a sudden, my heart went into my stomach. I thought, oh no, I am in big trouble. Because we sent the book to the ambassador. He's known as the nuncio. And I went into like my third grade boy mode, like getting sent to the principal's office and like, oh my gosh, I'm in so much trouble. So he says to me, he says, is this Father Stephen? I'm like, yes. Are you the author of this book? I'm like, yes. And he says, well, he said, we really love the book so much. We thank you for sending it, that we've decided to buy a whole bunch of copies from Oxford, and we're going to send them over to the Vatican. And we want every head of the office at the different offices at the Vatican to read the book before the American bishops go over for their meetings in November. I was like, yes. I was like, thank you very much. I was like, I'm not in trouble? He's like, no, you're not in trouble. And then he said, besides that, which really got me elated, he said, you know, we really want to give it to the Holy Father, to Pope Francis, because he's going to be meeting with each one of the bishops from the United States. But he says he doesn't really read English that well, and he wouldn't have time to read that long. So he said, would you please put together a summary of the book in Spanish for him to read? And so I'm very excited about that. I'm going to be doing that. So I just wanted to share with you. It's a little show and tell as well, but I was very excited about it. So thank you very much. Thank you. And you haven't read it yet, so I don't know how much you'll be clapping after you read it. And just to end, when I wrote my first book about 6 years ago, you know how wonderful your family is to put you in your place? All of my siblings told me after my first book, they said, it is a perfect cure for insomnia. So I don't think my third book is a cure for insomnia, but it's cheaper than a bottle of melatonin, so you know, you may want to read it and pick it up. But thank you, everyone. Thank you very much. And let us stand now for our